Welcome to Visibility with Purpose. My name is Sigrid de Cast, a global online networking and visibility strategist.
And I'm Linnea Johnston, Executive Visibility Specialist. Each week, the two of us explore what it actually takes for senior professionals to become visible, recognised and trusted online.
Today, we have a great topic. We are talking about why LinkedIn networking and live networking are not the same thing.
As we share our insights here, we invite you to add your comments or questions, and we'll be very happy to respond. So, Sigrid, today I'd like to start by making a statement that I'll be very interested to hear whether you agree with, and it is this. LinkedIn is a discovery platform before it's a networking platform. And my rationale for wanting to start there is that I think that most people treat LinkedIn as a place to just connect. Whereas in reality, as both you and I know, people usually discover you long before they connect with you. Is that something that you've found in your experience with LinkedIn and networking?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think simply the interpretation of what networking, that word itself, means is a little bit different in my thinking to what a lot of people seem to attach to it. As you say, people on LinkedIn seem to think just being on LinkedIn is already about networking, and then they make contacts, connections, and start messaging. So by that time, if you haven't already looked at who the other person you are connecting with and messaging to is, then you've kind of lost a bit of it already, don't you think, Linnea?
Oh, absolutely. And if you want to connect with somebody who doesn't know you, visiting their profile is a really good place to start. A couple of reasons for that. One is that they may see that you've visited their profile, and so that already puts you in their good books. And the second thing is it gives you something to talk about. Not only do you understand what they do a bit better, but it gives you something that you might pose as a question when you start that first conversation. Because it's often very difficult, I think, Sigrid, for people to know what to say when they're first connecting to somebody. And we also want to make sure that people who we are asking to connect to us understand why we are asking, because if our request has come out of the blue, then they might have no idea what we do, who we connected with that they might know. There's no synergy there between us. Whereas if you've been to their profile, then you'll be able to come up with something that is synergistic between the two of you and allows you to ask a question, which then, of course, opens a door, doesn't it, to conversation?
Absolutely. And this is where I see that difference in networking when people speak about, oh, well, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm networking. And if I say, well, online networking is networking, what I'm referring to is that you can make those first connections when you are in the virtual room, speaking about online, in the virtual room with a group of people. Now, whether there are just 2 or 3 other people there or 20 other people, either way, in such a situation, you are networking, you are creating a network with these new people that you haven't met before, because usually when we first step into something like that, we don't know the other people in that virtual room yet. And that is where you begin making the connection. And from there, you can then connect on LinkedIn with the people. And you do have that reason you just mentioned, Linnea. Why should I connect with you? Well, we met in the networking room. So that makes it a lot more, there's that first grain of trust already established, isn't it? You place that grain there when you were talking to them or when you were introducing yourself. So you have a much bigger platform to get started with on further building and nurturing that trust, in my thinking, when we talk about networking on LinkedIn.
The thing I think that's useful to note there is the word trust, Sigrid, because we're living in a world where trust is being eroded more and more all the time. And I read an article just the other day that said that something like only 37% of people trust the media. Now, I know that trust in government institutions and a lot of other organizations is on the wane as well, which means that our presence on LinkedIn and what we do on the platform is an opportunity for us to build trust. And I think that is something that's going to become more and more important as AI gets a bigger and bigger foothold in our business world. And I think too that the networking online is a great way to start building that trust. I bet you agree with that one too.
Absolutely. And you've really raised a really valuable point here when we're thinking about, no trust in the media. And I've just watched or just seen headlines to go and watch a particular documentary on that area. There's a lot to that, but that's not what we're here to discuss today. The thing is, trust in the other person. So if somebody pops in, wants to connect with you, and the next moment, once you've accepted it, they send you a sales message, well, there's no trust there, is there? You had no time to even get to know that person. And yet it happens a lot. So when we are starting, let's say, being in a networking, in an online networking meeting, for example, and the way I like to use it, of course, is on LinkedIn, live streaming it into LinkedIn. So people can already see you beyond that virtual room in the LinkedIn feed when LinkedIn announces that there's a live happening, for example. So you can start creating that trust and that connection, and then you can go deeper and further with it. And it does take time, Linnea. I mean, yes, you might meet somebody, and when we talk about relationships, there's this saying, oh, I met the person and it was just a hit right away. It clicked. It can happen like that in networking. You meet somebody and their personality just shines across and you feel you can trust them. Still, the thing is, I think we want a little bit more time to get to know the other person. And AI in the world now can do so much for us, creating content in ways of written content and even videos. But when we show ourselves like we do right now, Linnea, we are here, there's no AI in the room with us right now, then the people who are watching can get to know who we are in the way we are, Linnea.
And I think that is such an important point, because it brings AI into the realm of trust. And I think that that's a very difficult question, because we do business with people we know, like, and trust. And as you've pointed out already, it takes time to build trust, doesn't it? It's very easy to lose trust in someone, of course, but it takes a long time to build, and it takes consistency of showing up regularly, of messaging someone on a consistent basis, and not, as you have already pointed out, trying to sell to somebody. As you said, a lot of people do try to sell on LinkedIn, and I think that's the wrong thing to be doing. I think LinkedIn is a really good place to be meeting people that you want to get to know and who you want to learn from, who you think you might be able to help, but not in a buy my widget type of way, but help them in a way that is going to make you be valuable to them, because that's something I think that is getting more rare too. People who are actually willing to help others and put that first and foremost, rather than it being transactional. If I give you this, you must give me that. So to me, building a network, or a strong network of people who know, like, and trust me, is something that I always put front and center. Look, I'm not perfect by any means, and sometimes things fall through the cracks, but I do try really hard to build those relationships with people to see whether or not there are synergies, or there is something that I can offer, something I can help with, some advice that I can give. And I think putting the other person first is a really good way of being able to demonstrate trust, Sigrid.
Absolutely. It reminds me of that saying, give us gain. When you give something first, whether that's a tip or whether that is, a direction for somebody, something like that. Or when you say, hey, I saw this video, I thought it might be of, use to you. Those little things can, create that trust, that initial trust. Talking about sales, and this is going to be for another episode to talk about, Linnea, but there are some people on LinkedIn who say that if you're doing it the right way, you can make a couple of millions through LinkedIn. And they do point out, though, of course, that it does happen through the connection and networking in the right way and putting the right content out. Now, let's earmark that for another session where we can really dig into it. For today, I definitely agree with you that it is that interaction, and AI can't do that. We have two levels. We have the level of being visible as ourselves and putting the visibility into other content, written content out there. But I think that live moment when you and I and others around us are in a virtual networking room, it really does make that difference to get to know us and to say, okay, I like how that person answers questions, shares their insight, and that really can create that first step. And of course, then people want to know more about you. Do you find that when you are somewhere live, when you've done a live presentation or a podcast on LinkedIn, for example, you do get a lot of connection requests?
I do, depending on who's been in the room, Sigrid, but yes, absolutely. So, for example, recently I gave a presentation to students from a university here in New Zealand. These are executive MBA students, and several of them connected to me after that event with questions or just simply to connect and say that they found what I shared useful. And one of them has become a member of my Linkability community and is giving some really good value through her unique perspective and the background that she's come from. And that's exactly how these things ripple out on LinkedIn. You do something, you give a presentation or you put on a LinkedIn Live, and you do then manage to increase your network. And not only just for the people who attended live, Sigrid, the people who might see an episode afterwards, the replay perhaps, or the repurposed content from an event as well. So I really do think that going to the effort of helping people and sharing information and ideas is a very good way to extend your network, because people love to learn. Don't you find that people want to learn?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that is really a great point for us to bring this particular session today on our topic together, because you talked about repurposing. So when we are like this live, people can see us, get a feel for us, and then AI gets to know us through repurposed content that we might take out of this particular discussion on the topic, because the topic can be expanded in many more and different ways that we talked about today, that part alone. So I think that is really valuable to know. Networking on LinkedIn is one way that fits beautifully in networking online. In addition, where we can be visible both ways and bring that trust and over time the credibility all together, Linnea.
I agree, and I'm so pleased we had a chance to talk about this. And if you are in the comments, please do share something that you learned from this or that you thought you found useful. And of course, if it was useful, share it with a colleague who's navigating the same questions about visibility, because that's exactly the kind of networking that builds recognition.
Absolutely. And next week, we'll be talking about why being good at what you do doesn't make you visible.
That'll be a great topic. So use the links in the description below to connect with Sigrid and I on LinkedIn and to find out more about how we can help you become more visible online.
So until next time, be visible, be valuable, and be remembered.